Good evening. I'm calling to order the September 2nd meeting of the Southborough Select Board. First item on the agenda is public comment, and it's an opportunity for members of the public who wish to speak to an item that's not on the printed agenda. And we try to keep comments to 3 minutes or less, and it's not intended as a back and forth, just an opportunity for members of the public to offer comment. If anyone here wishes to speak under public comment? Okay, so our next matter on the agenda is the continued hearing of Pratt Automotive's application for a Class 2 auto dealer license. And we had began this hearing on August 19th and continued it until today. And I know we have a representative from Pratt's here if you'd like to come forward. The matter that we addressed last time was the requirement to get a special permit or seek a special permit from the ZBA for the business that you're looking to put here. And so if you could just update us on, where are you in that process, and have you applied for a?
So I have talked to the zoning board, already paid the fees, did all of the paperwork. So it's for next month's meeting.
Okay. So I continue to think it makes sense for the ZBA to first go through consideration of whether or not to give you the special permit, and then for us to act on your Class 2 application.
But from my own understanding, the ZBA isn't for what I am asking. It is for the other businesses that's there. Because the building itself has been a car business for decades. So I'm not asking the special permit for my business. The special permit itself, it is for the different offices that is on the property.
Yeah, you haven't convinced me. I mean, I continue to think the safest way, most straightforward way to do this, let the ZBA do their thing, and then we consider this piece of it.
Cool.
I thought he also needed site plan review from planning board.
I believe so, yes. So
They didn't tell me anything. So the only instruction that I got the day before of the meeting, it is all news to me. Because if somebody had told me the day that I came in to get the license that I needed to do all of this procedure, it would have already been done. So on the day of the meeting, you guys told me get the special permit. So I went to the zoning board. All right, cool. What do I need? This and this and this and this and that. So I submitted everything that they asked. Now you're telling me that there's more? So, I mean, I would simply like a clear path to what is needed so that there's no back and forth, there's no confusion, there's none of this,
So Mark, please.
Yeah, so just to clarify a little bit, there's been a lot of correspondence that has gone back and forth with the applicant that I've been copied on from the ZBA, and I've also corresponded with him myself. There's been several indications and also from ZBA that there will likely be additional site plan review that planning board will have to do. And you were encouraged to reach out to the planning board to have that conversation to see if that was the case. Now, last I knew, the town planner had not heard from you as to anything, for a hearing or for a review of this to see if it was going to require a hearing. So I just want to correct that piece that, we've tried to put this together as we've gone along and tried to educate as to what needed to be done. So the ZBA application was filed today, so that will be heard by the ZBA at their October meeting.
And you believe ZBA will, before they approve the special permit, will require either?
No, it can run, they're two separate processes, but they can run concurrently.
Okay, so ZBA could go ahead and issue a special permit without the planning board having done their site plan review?
Yes. That's up to ZBA, and Andrew may be able to answer that better, having been a former member, but it's probably going to require both.
So I know you're frustrated. You were frustrated last time. You look like you're not maybe quite as frustrated this time. And I know it sounds like a lot. You got to go two places. The other one's right down the hall at the planning office and talk to them about whether you need site plan review. Use those three words. And then the ZBA, it looks like it's scheduled, so you'll get through that and then it'll come back to us to actually issue the license.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So my suggestion is we just continue this until our first meeting in November.
Second,
Does that make sense? Oh, November 2nd?
the second meeting in November.
Second meeting in November.
Be meeting the 4th and the 18th.
And why are we jumping over October?
So talking with Laura Davis, if the hearing is held in October, I think it's the 15th,
All right, so you're just.
then
trying
they
make
need to
sure-
write the opinion, and then if it does get all done on the 15th, they write the opinion, they vote the opinion, it goes to the clerk's office in the 20-day appeal period. That's going to leave it sometime, in the second week of November.
Okay.
That's why that's the suggestion. Or you could do the first meeting in November. You'll know the decision of ZBA at least at that point. It's up to you. You can always continue it.
You can approve it pending the appeal period expiring.
Yes.
Okay.
So you want to go to November 4th?
I think that would help him a little bit.
I move that we continue this hearing until November 4th.
Should we do on the second? That way there's no more surprises.
You mean the second, you want to go to the, no, do you want November 18th or no, November 4th?
Whichever one is better so that we have zero more
Well, what we're saying is
Back
by
and forth.
November 18th, first off, this assumes there's not going to be, your ZBA hearing is going to be straightforward,
it
okay?
is, yep.
And there's no planning board.
Right, so, sounds like your preference would be for the 18th.
So on the 4th, if everything goes through, I get the license pending on what?
The
Or
fourth,
there's
you
no
just have the appeal period to expire. So the ZBA should have issued the decision, but there's an appeal period. So
Okay.
the 18th would pick that up.
Yeah.
So we could, Andrew, help me.
Yeah.
We could approve it on the 4th pending the appeal period expiring. So you still want to get your
All right,
license
cool.
into that 20-day. But we'd be done with our work at that.
Okay, so November 4th.
So I move that we continue this hearing until November 4th.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Okay,
Planning board tends to be pretty busy, so I get down there pretty soon and talk to the town planner. Her name is Karina.
Now or
No, she's gone for the night, unfortunately.
Tomorrow.
She'll be in tomorrow.
okay. Alrighty,
all right, thanks.
thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so we have two matters on the consent agenda. And I'm gonna actually hold both. Okay, so first on the meeting minutes, I have a quick correction to make. On line 34, Mr. Medri's last name is spelled Medri. It's the only change that I have. Any other changes?
I think Pedroso, the first name is Tarsis on line 29.
All right, I've got a few besides those two. One's important, really important. 178, the current, where she says the current 2% surcharge, it's 1% surcharge.
I have that, yes, yeah, I got it.
Everybody agree? Andrew?
Yes,
Okay. Next line, 179, Mr. Hamilton shared that was his presentation, his community preservation exodus changed the to his. And on line 210. So Bridget, I'm just going to read what you should say here. So Article 4 to lift the 7% cap on multifamily housing 4, that's all fine. And then changes to 55 and over residents, just because I don't consider 55 elderly anymore. I think it's very young, as a matter of fact. So 55 and over, just don't say elderly. That's it.
and on line, one other correction on line 193. The deadline to finalize the warrant for special town meeting, it's not October 17th, it's October 7th. Any other changes? Okay, I move that board approve the open session meeting minutes for August 19th as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? Then, for the National Grid easements, Mark, do you want to present the issue that's.
Sure. So John Parent has been working with National Grid and with Bob Moran. The EV charging stations that we've approved to put out back in the two stations in the back of the townhouse parking lot are going to require an additional pole from National Grid. And they would need an easement from the board to be able to do that, to put that on your property. The issue that came up was, well, they've got 4 other poles back there already, none of which have easements. They provide power to the town building. And they said, well, why don't we wrap this all into the one document? And we said that was fine. And you can see that in the plan that is in your packet. However, the actual easement document is still being worked back and forth between our council and Grid's council as to the liability provisions. We want to make sure if Grid is coming in and doing any work in the easement, replacing a pole, and something goes sideways, they're responsible for it. And just to protect the town liability wise. So that agreement is not ready tonight. So you have 2 choices. One, the board could either continue, would just table this matter until the next meeting, or you could vote to approve it tonight, subject to council review. So that's probably the two options you would have on the table for that.
I think it makes sense to just continue it to the next meeting, how others feel.
Is John Parent in the audience?
No, he's not.
So
John,
neither way is going to hold this up, and this is a good thing. We want to get it rolling here. So I'm fine, just waiting as long as it doesn't hold anything up here.
yeah, I think if you wanted to wait until the 16th, you'd be okay.
My understanding is getting poles installed is a lengthy process in any event.
Okay. So we'll just take it up at our next meeting.
We'll table it to the 16th.
Okay, so the next and last item on the agenda is a review of the warrant, and here,
What about the reports?
I don't have any reports.
Nobody has any
But nobody called in any members' reports either.
No reports either?
Nope.
Wow. Okay.
I have one quick item. It's I'd like to do the PR for various departments. Youth and Family Services, it's Prevention Awareness Month. And they have a lot of workshops that are coming up, September 2nd, 9th, 23rd, 30th. Topics including depression, navigating a mental health system, suicide prevention training. These are all information is available on the town website under the Youth and Family Services page. And there is an informational session link on there, which you can click on, find out information about all of these and sign up for the sessions. So a lot of good content from Youth and Family. So I wanted to put that plug out there for them. Did you want to? Oh, do you want to do it off the cuff? Vanessa had a little bit of an update from Tricentennial, which you could jump in on.
Is this about the ice cream social on the 7th? Yes. Okay, I don't know if people have seen on my Southborough, but this okay, is it the 6th or the 7th?
7th.
It's the 7th, okay. On the 7th, the Tricentennial Committee is having a informal ice cream social at the Southborough Heritage Park. And what time is it, noon or 1 or
2 to 4.
2 to 4? And it's just intended to try to kind of generate some buzz about reminding people about the Tricentennial Committee, hopefully get some other people to sign up and hope people can attend. There'll be ice cream.
Yes. Free.
Okay, should we move on to the warrant? So, for our October 27th meeting, we have 2 regular meetings before we have to sign the warrant on the 7th. So the warrant is still in fairly incomplete shape, because a couple reasons. One, today is the first day after Labor Day, and we are still waiting for some final language from the planning board on a lot of these articles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them would be planning board sponsored zoning articles. And I think we just got for the personnel board recommended articles, that's Articles 6 and 7. I think we just got suggested language.
You did.
That's literally,
To the new Article 6.
okay, combined into the new Article 6. This is literally hot off the press, so I haven't even had a chance to look at this yet. So I think kind of, this is probably gonna be a very short meeting, but the best we could do is probably think about, of what we've got on here, what, if anything, should come off, and think about the ordering of it. I know what prompted this special town meeting really was Atlantic Developments coming forward with their proposal for the amending adding the highway major retail use. That was what kind of prompted the special fall town meeting. And then we have a bunch of other things tagged on, but we still want to keep this a relatively short focus town meeting, I think. And our start time is 6:30. We don't want this, it's going to be on a Monday night. We don't want to drag it on too long. So that's something we can accomplish, is maybe making a decision of what if anything is going to come off, and then second, talk about the ordering. So before we go through that,
I'm just here for Article 5.
okay, we'll get to it. All
So
right.
I'm standing here when you.
Okay.
So Andrew, can I
Yeah.
just add something to what you said?
Sure.
Unlike, I don't remember ever trying to stress how important a town meeting is for one specific thing. And this, as we know, is really important to the project that is being brought forth on the EMC Dell land. More and more is going to be said about it before town meeting, where we'll let the developer talk like they want to, but that Article 1 and 2 is really important. Therefore, I think we should strive to make sure that this meeting is succinct, it is to the point, and doesn't drag on and on and on to, again, encourage people not to come. We want people to come to this meeting. This is a really important project to this town. I think it's going to be well received, but we need to support it. So I'm hoping that we can move some of these to the spring. I don't think there's going to be any downside to do that. So I'd like, as we go through this, people keep that in mind. We want this to be really easy to come, to vote, and to go home. Because this project is important to us all.
Okay, although we already have, the Atlantic articles are up front, so,
I know.
we know sometimes people show for those and some people don't all the way to the end.
I just think those are going to confuse people when you get to the one where where planning board's trying to laudably update the uses in the IP zone. Agree with that. I just don't think it should go on this warrant. I think it should go next time. Now, the select board controls what goes on a warrant, period. CPC can put articles here, and so can citizens, but select board determines what goes on this warrant. So it's not planning board, it's not school committee. I think the roof should be moved to the spring, but we can talk about it.
Okay, and we can also talk about the ordering, what's the best way to order the articles. So if you have a specific comment about Article,
Article 5?
yeah, if you want
Sure.
to get that out of the
Let me
way.
just speak here. Is that okay? I'm going to refer to the,
Your name.
oh, sorry. I'm Sarah Warden and I live on 27 Atwood. I have a PAR report that I'd like to share because I'm not sure if you've all seen it, from November 2024. And I'm going to
Yep, this looks familiar.
I was just hoping to get some clarification what the $85,000 is for. I know, it says it's for, on Article 5, for the engineering, design, and bidding of the remediation work for the contamination of the former Atwood water tank. So I wasn't sure if that includes on that report, on the last page, I highlighted it. They mentioned some temporary safety measure, and I don't think that's happened yet. So I wasn't sure if you could just help me understand what that $85,000 is. Does that include that as well?
Right. Here's, Mark, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is before a full-on remediation takes place. Towns engineers need to work up a bid package of specifications so that contractors can come and bid on it. And so this is for the professional services, the engineering services to work up a bid.
Yeah.
So it's a necessary first step before you can do the full-on mediation.
So for example, they've got to say to the bidder, this is the area we want you to clean up, et cetera. But she's got a good point.
Yep.
Look what she's referring to here. I'm not aware that what the 85.4 is includes the temporary measures that were recommended by PAR.
The 85,000 is going to also have to specify the method of remediation. That is, because there are various things one could do to remediate the site. You know, one option, for example, I'm not suggesting any of them, would be to cap the site. Another option would be to remove the material and send it to a specialized landfill. And so the engineers have to say, you know, this is the plan. This is what's going to be done. Before you can't go out and say, you know, we want you to clean this up. You have to be fairly specific about the steps you want and how you know when things are done. And so there's a fair amount of engineering and work, and you know, it's expensive like everything else.
That's not what she's asking, though. She's asking if we're going to do the short-term protection before we actually do the work, because PAR said you should do it. So I don't think that 85K includes that on this. Did you see the last paragraph here?
Yeah.
So I'm just
There-
concerned. I live across the street and I walk by it every day. And I just worry that, you know, someone might be up there not knowing it is town land. I'm just concerned it's not marked or anything, and hoping that we could also do this safety measure. I know that eventually it will get cleaned. You know, we don't know what way yet, but this is just, I wasn't sure if that 85,000 was also that, you know, I just wasn't sure what that was for.
Cool.
I know it's expensive to get the quotes, but I wasn't, you know, I just wanted to bring that up.
But you
Because I
bring-
know there's like two options on that PAR report, you know, about cleaning it up. And then the temporary was the last thing that I highlighted.
I mean, you bring up a good point. Right now, it's just open.
Yeah, and I think when you know, it's like asbestos, when you start digging around in it and they had to test it, that's why they're recommending that. And I know some of the lead was pretty high, and I'm just acting, you know, I'm a concerned neighbor.
So how about this? We will get an answer as to whether the 85 includes this. I think it's going to be no. But we'll confirm yes or no, and then we will talk to PAR again and Bill Cundiff and see if they believe it's going to happen fast enough that this doesn't need to be done. And if they don't, then what are we going to do about what PAR recommended?
Okay, because they recommended this in November of 24, and if we have the meeting and to get approved, I mean, I don't feel like the cleanup will happen within a year. So, because we'd have to go back to town meeting to get the money approved to clean it up. So I was just hoping that we could do something, and
You understand the process well. So you're right. It will take a while to get it done once it's approved.
Yeah, it's unlikely to start before the next summer.
So
Yeah.
good question, Sarah. We'll get an answer as to where that includes it or not. And if not, then whether we need to do what he recommends here.
okay, so I'll
Thank you
just,
for the
I can just
reminder.
come to the next meetings if you see me here. That's just why I'm here, just to
Okay.
get updates then. Okay, thank you so much.
While we're on this article, Andrew, is this an appropriate time to discuss the trust offer or not?
I think, why don't you just outline the, you know, what the vote that the trust took? And,
Because that relates to this article.
yeah, why don't you,
Yes.
can you just outline that and then we'll just kind of take it one
Sure.
step at a time?
So I'm going to recuse myself as a member of the select board for the following discussions and only represent the Affordable Housing Trust. I don't believe our chair is online.
Doug Mance.
Doug Mance, yeah. Okay. The Affordable Housing Trust has an interest in acquiring the Atwood Water Tower site. And we would like to, and we've taken a vote, and we would like to offer the town $200,000 to be used to partially defray the costs of the cleanup in return for the town transferring the site to the Affordable Housing Trust. This would, obviously take a little bit of pressure off the budget this next year, and that would include the 85,000. It obviously would require a 2/3 vote by town meeting to authorize the board to essentially finalize the arrangement. In addition, there are grants that are available for remediation for the purpose of building of housing and affordable housing. And the trust would work with the town to see if we couldn't secure those grants. So, that's the quick version of the proposal from the trust.
And you want that on the warrant, this warrant?
Well, yes, yes, because obviously, we're prepared to pay the 85,000 if the deal goes through,
So if this gets approved at special town meeting to agree to transfer the Atwood property land to the Affordable House Trust for $200,000, then you would take it, obviously you own the land at that point, so.
No, we would only own the land after it's cleaned up.
Okay.
The town's on the hook for getting the land cleaned up. But, and then after it's cleaned up, it would be transferred. So what we'd ask the town meeting to do is to authorize the select board to essentially finalize that transaction.
Why would you need to do that at this meeting then if it's not going to happen until it's cleaned up?
We have other reasons.
Okay, so, who's paying the 85?
The Affordable Housing Trust is willing to pay the 85,000 if the town agrees to transfer the cleaned up site to the Affordable Housing Trust.
Or $200,000?
We
So
pay,
We'll give you 285 or is it?
no,
200 less?
200 total. And I'm sure that the cleanup is going to cost more than the 115 that's the balance.
Okay, so
I would suggest, you might want to have two articles in case one doesn't pass.
all right, and we just need some more time, I think. I mean, I am interested in hearing more about this, but
Me too.
I think, do you think that you could, I know that you reached out to town council, right, to get some guidance about the process here. I say we just keep the article that we have about the appropriation for the 85 for now, right? And then while you can work something up, maybe to have it for us to consider at the next meeting. And then we talk about whether we keep on both, take off one. Does that sound appropriate?
Yes, I would suggest that the board select one member to work with essentially be the board's representative to
Work with
whatever
the chair-
negotiations are involved.
Work with what the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust will?
Yes,
Okay,
and that should not be me.
okay. So who is interested here? Okay.
I want to get this done. I'm still just a little fuzzy about how. So the grants that are available only if you agree it's going to be for affordable housing that you know about. Does it have to be in the trust before you get the grants?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, so we're
Yeah.
not going to.
So, yeah, but
Okay.
Doug Mance, who lives in this world, this is his bailiwick, and he and Ellen Myra are digging into what is available.
Okay.
And that would probably, we've got more time to dig into that, but there is additional opportunity.
I'd like to be the board representative to look into that.
Okay, is anyone else interested?
If Marguerite weren't, I would.
All right, so Marguerite, that sounds good to me.
All right, and Ms. Warden wants to ask a
I
question.
just wasn't sure if neighbors should be notified of this before this goes on to, before when the lead contamination came up, I know that neighbors had to be notified about that lands, the abutters, and I haven't been, and I am an official abutter. So I wasn't sure before this goes to town meeting, if that would be something that has to happen when it's and in this part, they estimated 700,000 to 1.3 maybe for the remediation. I know that's not the actual number and they have to pay the 85,000 for them to get it. But I'm just thrown off that, if you cap it, it's less expensive, but if you have to develop it, you have to do the more expensive option. So I'm just thinking here, about, the town being responsible to completely remediate it.
Well,
So I'm just having a lot of questions.
we're just talking about a potential article to have on the warrant.
Okay,
And then, so I think, stay tuned at the next meeting, 2 weeks from now. What we're trying to do is there'll be hopefully a draft article, and then we'll have a fuller discussion then really about whether to go forward with it as an article for the special town meeting on the 27th. And then depending on how fleshed it out it is about whether, the select board, obviously, I think if we put on the warrant, it's because we support it. And so
Yeah.
we don't have any language to really work with right now, but that's the best I can say is.
So what we heard tonight from Mr. Hamilton is first time we've heard it, so we need
Okay.
time to flush this out, which we've now asked Marguerite to do with the chair of the Affordable House Trust. So there should be a lot more information
Yeah.
2 weeks from now.
Okay.
We only voted on this last Thursday. Just so you know, yes, capping is less expensive, but it comes with essentially forever monitoring of the site and forever maintenance of the cap. So it's not, it is an option, but it's not as cheap as one might like to think it would be.
Okay, without knowing the quote for the cap versus, it's hard to know.
Well, that's why we hire guys who know what they're doing.
Right, but if we're gonna approve it at town meeting before we even know the cost difference, then it's something that I think, the town might have questions on. Right,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So here's what I'd like to do. I'm just going to run through.
Hi,
Okay.
I'm Carl LBD. I live at 22 Atwood Road, which is the other side of where the lead contamination is.
And I remember you from some of the
How's
prior.
it going?
about this.
I just have a quick question. Is the $85,000 that you're proposing to spend on this, does that cover? So when you did this lead testing, it was for that property and then the 40 Atwood as well. Is the $85,000 to cover just that property, or is it to cover their property as well?
I think it's just the town property.
Is it just the town property? Because the report talks about it talks about the town property and it talks about that abutters. So is the $85,000 is this going to be all inclusive to include theirs as well as the town, or is it just for the town?
My understanding is that that the principal area of contamination is essentially around the margin of the drip line of the old water tank where, and that's the area that needs remediation, that the other areas do not need remediation. And that the neighbors, the contamination, if there was contamination there, it fell below the appropriate levels.
So there won't be remediation on their property?
Not at this time, I don't believe.
Okay, thanks.
No.
Okay. So here's what I'd like to do. Just quickly run through these articles and just give you kind of a quick snapshot of kind of where they stand. So the first two are the Atlantic articles, right? Everyone's good with keeping those articles 1 and 2?
Yes, and the question is, there is some that want to combine this into one. And so planning board is discussing that. So let's see what they come up with. And Atlantic is fine if they do that. So there will either be 1 or 2 articles that accomplish adding the major highway retail definition.
Article 3 is the amending the town code so that golf revolving funds in excess of $75,000 could be.
Yeah, so the change, so there's been some conversation that now that the golf is making some money, and the way the revolving fund is set up right now, funds that are, raised by the course can only be put back into the course. There's been some conversation as to whether or not we could try to incorporate some of those into the general fund each year as a revenue source. And so working with town council, and town accountant has also spoken with DOR, that column F, other requirements and reports, that is the language that kind of would give you that ability to, and again, that number was just a number that was put in there because that's the number that we currently have set the spending limit for the year. But then anything over $75,000 as of December 31st, when we have all the revenue for the year in, would then go into the general fund, close out, and then become part of free cash. So then it would be an available fund.
So is 75 still a good number?
I think, so there's going to continue to be projects, right? Irrigation is the big piece. CPC is taking care of that. The project is out to bid now. So we'll be getting some definitive numbers on that. That will be done this calendar year. I can say that somewhat definitively at this point. And, there'll be fence improvements, bunker maintenance, backflow preventers, things like that are going to happen and occurred. I think 75 is a reasonable number, and I've not been told otherwise.
Didn't, when the irrigation came through last year, wasn't that in CPC because the 75 was already going back to the general fund? And could it be tapped in for that expense? I remember there was a piece about.
No, so there was, you could not.
You're right, but you got it wrong, but you remember right as far as the piece of it that came out of the.
Yeah, $50,000 came out of it because, so you can't, Department of Revenue said you have no idea what you're going to get on an annual basis, so you can't use a revolving fund as a dependable funding source for multiple years. So you can't say we're going to take 50 grand out of that fund every year for 5 years. So we could only commit what money we had in there, and the board felt comfortable that we could, use 50 towards that project. So that was why the article was constructed that, I think the 550, from CPC and then the 50, another 50 coming from the revolving fund.
And should this have some kind of inflation parameter to it, or are these better as a hard number?
Well, I think if you set the cap of 75, you can always change it. Bylaw can always be amended.
I was thinking 75 isn't a ton of money. I know it's a decent amount of what they bring in, but 75 is not a ton of money for a project of any
yeah.
reasonable size, and it's getting.
Yeah, but look what he says, that you're going to reserve, you're going to also add to it any projects that have been approved at that point. So that'd be added to it if you knew about them. This is a truly 75K that is there for anything that comes up you don't know about. I think it's a reasonable number to start out with. It's arbitrary, but given that we think 75K is the right number to come out of the fund every year to pay for golf stuff, I think it makes sense to keep 75K in there, and let's hope the revenue keeps going up.
So Kathy makes a good point too, because it's any unreserved balance. So if the board has decided that you want to do say you want to do a fence project, say it's $10,000. So you take that 10,000 and you reserve that off to the side. It's going to be 75 on top of that, and then anything over that would go to, so I think it's a good starting point. I think it's a good starting point and see where it takes you.
Okay, so is everyone good with keeping this on the warrant? Okay. And Article 4 and Article 3, the golf revolving fund article, this is in good shape, pretty much done for. Article 4, a home rule petition to amend the DPW Special Act to recreate a cemetery commission. No, this is requested by Bill Cundiff. We talked about everyone, and this is also in pretty much good form. This is something that could potentially be, on a consent agenda too. Is everyone okay with keeping this on the fall town meeting warrant? Okay. And then the Atwood appropriation of free cash. That's what we just talked about. Keep it on there. Okay, so then Articles 6 and 7, which have now been combined, let me take a look at this. Now, in the draft article we previously considered this and voted to have the amount of money appropriated from free cash to fund the market adjustment be based on a January 1st start date rather than a July 1st start date. I will say I have been reconsidering this in my mind, and I think I would be willing to support it beginning as of July 1st rather than January 1st, just
July 1st of 25,
um,
or retroactive.
yeah, to have it be retroactive. Just, it remains a relatively small amount of money, the difference between the 33 and the 66. And I think it's something that would be good for morale, and you have employees that have been waiting for this for a long time. I don't know how other people feel about this.
I support your position, Andrew.
Al, Kathy, Tim, or Tim, you want to start with you?
I'd like to keep it where we landed before.
All right, Al?
I'd prefer January 1st, but it's not a hill I'm gonna die on.
Okay. Kathy?
I know Al never believes me, but I am as fiscally conservative as you. However, in this case, if you look at the people who are affected, these are long-term employees that are very valuable to us, and this is correcting a mistake. And I want to correct it as much as we can. These people should have been on a higher step all the way through, and because we had this gap with what we did, they just got stuck. I just think that the right thing to do is make it July 1st. We're not too far into the year either. It's not like it's, 10 months back. So I'd much prefer making it July 1st because I think it is truly righting a wrong.
I struggle with this, but in the end of the day, I think that I've changed my mind since the last time I thought about this 2 weeks from ago. So I move that for Article 6, we support the appropriation retroactive to July 1st, 2025.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Those opposed?
That was 5-0.
Vote against.
All right.
I do think we need to take a hard look at this thing.
The SAP?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and how it works, because it's not working.
Agree.
And
I was hoping that with what you guys are doing, that's going to be part of what you look at too, because
well, I think even beyond that, I think I would charge the town administrator with at least going out and taking a look at what other communities do, because this thing, I mean, it's a
A strange
straitjacket.
animal.
it is a strange animal and it is a straitjacket and it's just,
So I would ask the town administrator and his staff to come back and at least tell us what other communities are doing, and because I think the restructuring things take quite a while, and this is a mess.
I'm all for that too.
Yeah, so I think some of what you're talking about, and I agree with the taking a while, and that is your Article 13. And looking at it's some of those pieces in that. So just to be clear, what I would be looking at would be those non-town manager communities as to how they handle those things, because obviously under a town manager, a chartered form of government, it's going to be a lot more streamlined.
Okay, yeah, I think we ought to,
I was just clarifying that piece of it. Yeah,
but
but okay,
I'd like to hear more about this, in the next year.
sure.
I mean, you still might get good ideas from managed towns, as far as what they're doing. So
Yeah.
look broadly and see what others are doing. We got 350 others that have maybe better ideas than we do.
Okay, so the next on the list is what is now Article 7, an appropriation, asking town meeting to appropriate funds to.
Andrew,
Yep.
before we move off that one, can I ask just one question?
Mm-hmm.
Why did 0 to 2 go away, and why is it now 0 to 7? Why is it such a wider gap?
I don't know what,
You're saying, why does the 0.2 go away? Now we're talking about vacation, I think, right?
Yeah. I'm just.
Vanessa,
curious.
why don't you say then what you said to me earlier, and I think it'll make it clear.
So prior, up until now, this is a recommendation approved by the Personnel Board, but prior to this conversation, there is a provision in the SAP that if I wanted to make a recommendation to Mark that we bring on a new employee starting with 3 weeks vacation in their accrued monthly, but in their first year, I would have to go to the Personnel Board to get their authorization to do that. So that can be time consuming when we're trying to recruit someone quickly.
And
So.
below 3 weeks, you did not have to. It's 3 weeks.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So it's been happening almost with every single recruitment we've had practically in the past year or so and a little bit longer. So the Personnel Board felt like, we really need to make this change permanently. Let's start people at 3 weeks vacation. They're accruing, month by month, but it would accumulate to 3 weeks per year.
And this is under the impression of an entry level person, not necessarily like a higher grade.
Everybody.
It would be everybody.
But if,
No one starts with less than 3 weeks is what this says.
and if you had a higher grade, then you would have to go back to the personnel board and get approval for more vacation time appropriate to the position. they're
Correct.
hired at.
Correct.
Okay.
But it's just basically moving the assumed 2 weeks to an assumed 3 weeks.
Correct. And making it more efficient for us to bring a recommendation to you to appoint somebody without having to call a special meeting of the Personnel Board and have that delay.
I mean,
Al's comment a minute ago, yes, something needs to be done.
I think one of the things we're finding is that, and it was something Tim just said, entry level. We don't have a lot of entry level, right? We have positions, and I think, we found this, in the conversation with, the payroll and benefits person. We don't have the ability to bring somebody in and train them up. We need somebody coming in with that level of experience and, qualifications. And so we're finding that we're bringing people in, and that 3 weeks is something that we're asking for all the time. And Personnel Board said, look, if you're bringing people in, at these levels and everything and that, we should just change this so you can stop coming to us to have to get these things approved. Again, trying to streamline some of these things in terms of the hiring process. So as Vanessa said, we don't have to set meetings all the time.
Why aren't vacation time tied to grade? Why is it not broken out by a grade structure and tied to, like any other company that you would join and you'd have some kind of negotiation capability? The higher grade you are, the more capability you have to argue or to, ask for more time. Your
I'm not
position.
really sure, Mr. Fling. In my many years here, it's always been this sort of structure based on, certain parameters, but it's never been, as you say, tied to one's classification.
Oh, okay.
We still do need to go to the Personnel Board if we're bringing someone in above step 8. Mark can approve up to a certain point, but then we do need to go them for the pay approval.
This sounds like it needs work.
Yeah.
The SAP needs work.
Yeah.
We agree.
Okay, so can I now turn to Article 8 or what's now Article 7?
Yeah.
The, I spoke with the school committee chair today and confirmed that, the school committee wants to go forward at this fall town meeting, and they've, with asking town meeting for a appropriation for the Neary roof replacement. And I'm in favor of having this on the warrant. I think we usually are fairly deferential to other elected boards and want to come forward and put articles on the warrant. So I don't see that this really interferes with the Atlantic proposal in any way. We're going to have the Atlantic articles first. How do other people feel about it? Kathy?
Do we have a number?
So this is the language provided by bond counsel. The number would be in the motion. But the number is, I think, about 4.5 million.
Ugh.
Do we know to what extent that number was vetted because in the paperwork I've been sifting through, that number was around 1.3 not that long ago. So I'm just kind of curious if it's multi-bid at this point, if it's best guesstimate, or what it's based on.
Well, it definitely hasn't been bid yet.
Yeah, I don't, and nothing's been bid. So I would think it's an estimate, but I can't tell you how that was generated. I have to get that from the school.
Can you get that
Right.
and have it for next meeting
Yeah.
so we understand?
Yep.
Yes.
Tim Woodland Road, at the school committee meeting where this came up, the estimate was, I believe, 3.75 to 4.5 roughly for the high end. It came from the consultant that they used for roof repairs in the past, and Keith Lavoie was fairly positive about the consultant and the result. As my personal comment is, this is putting a 40-year roof on a building with a service life of maybe 5 years. But anyway,
So
that's the origin of it.
our question, our,
Say that again, Tim?
The roof that they're proposing would have a 40-year warranty expected life. As far as I can tell, most of the scenarios with NERI go maybe 5 years, probably not longer. I mean, it depends on what the pre-K to 8 committee comes up with, but
So your point is we're spending a lot of money for a roof and then we may
right.
get rid of it in
And
5
it
years.
seems to me like there's going to be a question of what's the longer term plan for the building?
Well, that's
No,
exactly
but-
what's going to happen at town meeting. That's what's going to get asked. We're going to get into a huge discussion about the school when there's no answers for it yet. So that's my point, Andrew.
Yeah, and I would just add that the pre-K committee is not going to come back with like a recommendation on what to do with the building. It's just going to be, here's an option to the best of our ability to estimate what the costs are so that people can look at it and have an understanding of what these options might look like. But it won't be a recommendation. We're not saying we should or should not do anything on that list. We're just saying this is what our best estimate is at the cost. So I want that to be clear.
So it's a dilemma.
I think if the goal is to have, to minimize controversy, this isn't going to help. The question I guess I would have, and this is one my wife asked me this, is, there was a plan for what to do with the NERI roof if we had gone ahead with the new school, where, for the next year and a half, we would be designing and NERI would still be in the mix.
No, because the school would have closed at the end of this year, right? Kids would have moved in the fall to the other two schools. So nearly been closed right now if
Yeah.
this project had been approved.
All right, then I'm mistaken. I don't know where I come out on this because, but I think if we don't have a clean answer for what the future of NERI is, then this will be a harder sell. And
I agree. I just don't see how you do this without that. But again, this roof is in that bad a shape and that's what I don't know. I just answered this wrong. We would have spent this next year designing it. So NERI will have been open one more year and then
Yeah.
closed. So I answered that. wrong.
so in that respect, we're kind of in the same place with the pre-K to 8, where, I hate to say this because, it may be that a patch is the right thing to do until, and I don't,
The statement at the school committee meeting was it's beyond patching. And, either you fix the roof or you close the building as of June upcoming.
Yeah, it's already been patched a lot.
The claim from the consultant, this was an extensive discussion, was,
Was it-
we've done all the patching we can possibly do. There's no more patching we can do. Fix it or close it.
so I think, I don't know how much, maybe it makes sense for the next meeting, we will get some more information from the school committee. Okay?
And actually get the consultant too, maybe to come and hear it.
yeah, I think the question I think we would ask him is, if we needed to have this school function for 1 to 2 more years, what would the proposed solution be? Because that's kind of the alternative. And, rather than saying, close the school, say, we need the school to operate for
Yeah.
2 more years, 3 more years, and then maybe it's the wrecking ball, maybe not. But tell us what that choice is.
So we will have some, we'll invite someone.
Yeah,
from-
yeah,
who will
absolutely, yeah.
Come for, okay.
Andrew, at the same time, we should ask the question of the numbers that I've been diving into and why they're drastically different now on an estimate or potentially different now on an estimate. Because they were estimated before in a lot of those documents on what a replacement would cost.
Okay.
But no vote was based on by advisory, the numbers that they put out.
Okay. All right, Articles 9 and 10, are Sam here.
Skipped 8. 8 and 9 now. New 8 and 9.
Okay. I gotta work off of the new one, not the old one. Sorry. Get this out of here. Okay. Articles 8 and 9, right? Cable funds. So I don't see any harm in keeping these on the agenda, but they need work. So is there someone that would be volunteer to be a point person to work with MTC and Jay? I have already talked to Matt Probst about this, that we want to get a firm. Does anyone know, Mark, if the $90,000 in Article 8 right now, is that a firm number or?
So when Mr. Montijo and MTC had taken a look at these systems, there were two systems they had looked at. One was approximately $82,000, and I think the other one was like $110,000, $112,000. They had similar capabilities. They both included all sorts of bells and whistles. There were monitors on the tables, all sorts of different things. Again, very much a bigger system than what we have now, capabilities. Jay had reached out to both of the vendors. So now the prices are more like closer to 90 with the markup and closer to 120 for the second one. And Jay is going to work with Matt to try to figure out, do we feel that the $90,000 system is what we want to do, what we want to need, or do we need to spend that other 30? Are you going to spend the other 30 and get 30,000 more value or not? So, if we don't have that answer, if we feel we're not going to get that, before you sign the warrant, we can simply put the sum of money and then we can address the issue. We can address the amount in the motion. That's one way to do it. So that is in process, but if somebody wants to work with with Matt and Jay, that's fine too.
Tim?
Yeah, I already talked to Jay about this in one of my other catch-ups with him, so I wouldn't mind being closer to the technology side of this.
Okay, so the goal is just so that we be prepared by, and I think you should invite, one or both of them to come to the meeting too, to speak to it directly. But just make sure that we're prepared so that 2 weeks from now, we've got, a number and we understand why the number is what it is for Article 8. And then for Article 9, Kathy, I know you worked on the new SAM contract. Here it looks like you would have the number in the motion.
Yeah, they will come forth if they, and I do believe they want to. Remember, they haven't had an appropriation in over a year. So we gave them the right to actually ask for this at a special town meeting on purpose. So they've got to do some homework. They've got to give us a reason, what they want. So they will come. I think there's about $300,000 in the combined capital and operating PEG account now. So this money's not coming out. This money has to be spent this way. And that will fund the new Zoom system too, the 90K. So they need to come forward and I'll work with them and get the number as far as what they want to ask for. And then they'll do it again at the town meeting, because this will take them through June 30th of 26. And then they'll ask for money again for the fiscal year starting 7/1. So yes, I can get the number.
Okay. Article 10 is a diff overlay district.
Is Sam available?
He was online.
Yeah,
Stivers?
yeah, he's the chair of the wastewater committee, so I'm gonna let him do the heavy lifting.
There he is.
Good evening, folks.
Oh, hey, Sam.
Andrew, do you want to introduce this or do you want me to talk about it?
Sure. I mean, my understanding is this would be a zoning article that need to go through planning and so if you could speak to, do you think it's ready for a fall town meeting warrant? And then what's, your general thoughts on it?
Yeah, the committee has not actually voted on this one at this point. And I guess my personal opinion is that we're not quite ready yet, in that there are a lot of moving parts here. And also, it is a complicated thing to explain to people without some prep work. So I think that, to me at least, we need a more specific proposal. We need to understand exactly how this is going to work. And my personal opinion is that we're not quite ready for this yet. I think it's a good idea. I think these are, again, good funds, and it will cost us a little bit if we delay for a while. But on the other hand, we want to do it right and be able to get it done in the first pass if possible. So my sense is we're not quite ready, but I think it's a good concept.
And just to give you a little context, I actually just put this in there. I alerted Mark that we were discussing it. So it's just a placeholder at this point. There is no formal vote. Sam, I, and Joe Truman went to Littleton to get the benefit. They're building a sewer system that's very similar to what we were at least thinking about. And it was a sobering meeting. It took them 20 years from start to finish to do, and it really involved the confluence of a set of circumstances where they had a major development in town, a major redevelopment of 50 acres, which included like 1,000 units of mixed-use housing. And the schools needed a new wastewater system for their schools. And it turns out that the stars really have to align given the costs. So right now we've got our horoscopes out and we are checking the transit of Venus. So, but there's more work to be done.
And Al, I would add that I'm not quite as pessimistic in the sense that I think we've found that there are ways to actually finance that more upfront that we've not really looked into as much as we'd like to. And so I think that at least I have modest hope that we can actually put it together, but it is a real challenge and most people have had difficulty getting the funding for these things. So it's not by any chance a slam dunk, but I remain optimistic that there may be some way we can work through this, but that's what we're working on through the wastewater study committee now.
The short answer is there is no formal request from the wastewater committee,
Okay.
and I think probably lighten the load.
Let's take it off. How about that?
Yep.
All right. By the way, if I can go back to Article 6. Yes, so here in the warrant, this has it reflecting that we are the sponsors of the article. It could be the personnel board, but I'm happy to have the select board be the sponsor of the article and make the presentation at town meeting. Does that sound okay to everyone? All right. Okay, so then of the 4 things you have remaining, 3 of them are zoning articles. And I don't know how complete these are. Kathy, I share your view that it's probably best if we could just have this meeting focused on, the major change in Articles 1 and 2. And planning board's going to be meeting about this next Monday. I'm planning on attending and just getting some more information about where the status of all this is so we can kind of monitor it. Article 13.
Yeah, on Article 11.
Yep.
I've scanned it, and this, there were a set of discussions related to this. I know that Section 9, the light manufacturing section, it was written by somebody who has no knowledge of light manufacturing, and I think this needs a lot more work.
I mean, I think we're all for doing this,
Yeah.
but doing it right. And I just see someone looking at this and saying, well, what's it, getting to one and saying, well, wait a minute, what are you doing in Article 11? Aren't you doing the same thing? And can we talk about that and look at all these uses? And then we get into this long discussion that we're trying to avoid so that we really focus on what 1 and 2 is trying to do.
Yep. Now, the other two zoning articles, updating ADU rules, and the last is lifting the cap on 55 and over units, which was recommended by the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and the Housing Production Plan.
I think they're not gonna, I don't think that one's gonna be ready by the planning board.
Yeah. I'm gonna find out on Monday.
Okay.
So I think it makes sense we just keep these in here until the next meeting. And then the one remaining is, Al and I talked about a article to form a committee that looks into some of these longer term restructuring things. Here I am kind of torn about, is this something we should have at the fall town meeting or at a annual town meeting? I mean, I don't think we should have it any earlier than it is, and I think where it is on the warrant right now, it'll just be, it could be pretty few people there at the end, so I'm probably inclined to, we move this and have this at the annual town meeting, but I don't know how others feel.
I
Oh.
think it's a wider discussion than just.
I would leave it in. And I don't think this is particularly controversial. You know, I think every 10 or 12 years, every 10 or 15 years, you ought to take a look at the way you're organized. Again, there's all this is forming a committee to come back and make recommendations. It's not making any irrevocable decisions or major decisions. It's really asking people to look at how we're organized, look at how other communities are organized, and think about the future and, you know, where we are. There's some non-trivial subjects that we need to address. You know, obviously one of them is, you know, should we move to a town manager form of government? That's a question we should ask ourselves. We asked it about a dozen years ago, and the answer was no. And I think maybe, you know, we've now reached the point where we might have a different answer, but we ought to take it seriously. I don't think this is controversial. I could be wrong. I've been wrong many times before, but I don't think this is controversial.
I agree with Al. I mean, this is just forming the committee to start looking at stuff. No decisions being made. That's where the discussion will come in once just, you know, recommendations come back. So I think that this is not controversial either. You're just forming the committee to take a look at things. We all acknowledge we can be a whole lot more efficient. No one's going to dispute that. So I agree with Al. I don't think anybody's going to
Yeah.
have too much of an issue with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole separate set of things which fall into our bailiwick, which we should also be addressing, but that's a separate subject.
I would suggest doing some groundwork for quite a while before bringing this to a town meeting.
This is just a committee.
I know, but I think it's gonna set a lot of people off.
And why? Yeah.
I think that employees will find it unsettling, and I think that residents will find it unsettling, and it's a large discussion. And I think it would have a much better chance of passing at town meeting in the spring if there'd been at least some back and forth about it on my Southborough for a couple of months.
Well, this would be another thing we could work into a charge of this type of committee, is make sure they hold public forums. And I've, you know, looked at examples that Jay Tallerman has pointed me to. So for example, Holliston did something like this. Took them actually 4 years to go through the process of, it was a select board appointed committee, and this current draft has a appointed by the moderator, and maybe that's something we can talk about. What's the best way to handle that? There's kind of pros and cons to each, but you know, that ultimately led to, they moved towards a town manager, and they have their Holliston as their first town manager. And you know, the idea of this is that select board could just do these things and could just put them on as articles at town meeting, but the idea is having a committee that takes a year or so to work through different ideas increases the likelihood that ultimately, some of the things that the committee may recommend may be controversial, but the idea that having gone through a committee will probably increase the chances that there'll be buy-in for the changes that we're looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, the premise of this article is there's a lot of different independent elected boards that have frequently uncontested elections and that have sometimes work at cross purposes with each other. And you could reduce the number of those committees. We also have some departments that we could probably have consolidate into some other, departments that have some similar functions. We could consider combining them. And the representative town meeting, that's something that's a little more, there are not a lot of towns that are our size that have representative town meeting instead of open
Yeah.
town meeting. But another resource this committee could use is the MMA has a specific little section that focuses on this and is a resource that the committee can use for them to do some research. And, you'd have to, as we were appointing people to this committee, or the moderator is appointing people to this committee, you need to think about, okay, who are people who, have served on some of these boards that have a lot of experience and are kind of, wise folks who can make good recommendations about changes to make. So I think let's keep this on, and we can talk about it
Yeah.
more in detail at the next meeting.
Okay, I hope it isn't going to be as controversial as I think it's going to be.
Well, if we leave it as the last one and it gets voted down, we bring it up again, at a later date. I think it does no harm to go out and start asking these sorts of questions, and we may decide that we're very happy with the way we are. That would not surprise me at all.
I agree. I don't see the downside. So Marguerite, I'm having trouble. I'm trying to listen to you as far as what you're worried about here. It's just the committee to start looking at things, listen to people, and from that coming forth with some suggestions of things that can improve.
I mean, I can say from my experience, it's hard to say that the structure we have right now is a great structure.
Really.
The structure we have today puts too many mundane things on this board's shoulders and keeps us from dealing with some of the larger things that we should be dealing with. And we need to do this. I chaired the town administrator bylaw, about a dozen years ago when, we needed to take that first step. And town meeting actually was very receptive. There was a solid vote to expand the board. There was a solid vote to ask for the special legislation that was required and to approve the town administrator. So I think, done properly, and this takes time and it takes a lot of communication, but this is the sort of thing that I think is important to do.
But remember too, your committee, yes, was successful, but the predecessor one was not. So it took a while to get.
Well, yes, it does take several bites at the apple sometimes.
Okay, so I think we're not touched on each of the articles. Does anyone have suggestions about want to make changes to the current ordering of the articles?
I had one question, Andrew, if I can ask
Yeah.
you this. With Article, where are we, 6, which is the old 6 and 7. Is this, it's going to be combining the consolidating the classification for Biz Admin 1 and Biz Admin 2 into one Biz Administrator, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and then the next part of it is to correct, as Kathy said, the error for make a market adjustment for non-union employees. And then to do the vacation accrual. This is 3 separate things. Is any of those 3 need to be a separate one, or are they all gonna pass okay? when
I
we
think
get
that-
Together.
Okay, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this just came back from Kate Federoff, so
She's the one that wanted to combine them into one?
yes.
Yeah, she felt that she could. So excuse me, I'm looking at this kind of for the first time. I think all the pieces are there. I don't think I like the order. So I think that it needs to kind of, everything needs to be restructured in there. So that you've got the change to the, to section 20, to the business administrator Marguerite just discussed. And then the cost amount there, and then dealing with the other piece, and I would probably move it around a little bit, just to make it.
I would keep them separated because, you know, we do these compound articles and you lose people.
Yeah.
So I think BA 1 and 2 get combined, boom,
I can
vote.
see that.
Do the steps, boom, vote. And then do the vacation, boom, vote. So, you know, you do these long things and you just, people glaze over. So,
So you
I-
want to do them in separate
well,
articles?
I'm just one person. I think it's cleaner if you do it.
I think you're two people, Kathy, now, because I agree with you. I think if you disagree with one part of it, you'll torpedo the whole set of them.
The BA 1 and 2 is easy, right? Vacation is pretty easy. So I agree. Yeah, just do it boom, boom, boom. So people can actually focus on exactly what we're voting on and not try to.
And that's fine. I mean, I think the goal was, I originally talked to the chair and, wanted to try to keep this like at around 10 articles.
Yeah.
So trying to consolidate them, I thought was the way to go, but happy to break them out too. It'll make it a little bit easier.
I went back and I looked at the warrant for the fall town meeting we had in 2024, which was actually the MBTA communities. And we actually had 17 or 18 articles on that warrant, and we got to all of them except the last one, which was a citizen's petition, was I think we dealt with all of them. That would have voted to indefinitely postpone. So
if we're going to break these all out into 3 separate articles, does the board want to sponsor all 3, or does the board want to let personnel board sponsor the change to the vacation policy?
Let them do it. They know more about what they're proposing the change to be, right?
I'm fine with having the select board be the sponsor.
Me too.
I don't care. But if we get rid of 10, 11, 14, that's 3 gone, that's down to 11, then add the 2 back, that's 13.
Okay, is there anything else we can do about the warrant tonight?
Not obviously.
All right. Next item is public comment, and it looks like our town clerk would like to speak under public comment.
Thank you, Jim Hegarty, Town Clerk. I don't express an opinion about the content of the warrants, but you have roughly 4 hours to deal with that night, because meetings usually start 25 to 30 minutes late. It's a 6:30 meeting. You got to get done by 11 o'clock. So whatever you can do to try to get this in one night, I'd recommend it. Because if it goes to 2 nights, you're going to have a problem with a quorum, especially if some of the low hanging at the end. It's just my concern. Second thing, I will be coming to you probably for your next to the 2 meetings from now to let you know the results of a summer project we had where we reached out, we analyzed voter participation in town meetings going back almost 20 years. And we identified voters who go to almost all town meetings, some have gone sporadically, and people that have never gone. And we had telephone conversations with over 100 of those people to ask them a series of questions about why they go to town meeting, how do they learn about it, their thoughts about how it's run, very different things about the different 3 groups, how they came to mind. So we'll be providing that information, and it kind of ties into your thoughts about our form of governance, so forth, what can work. And we've also gone back in the time machine to look at voter participation, go back in the 70s and the 80s, which is really an eye-opening deal. So we have some thoughts about some statistics, some real data, whereas we all tend to think how people is. So it's very interesting how individual people learn about town meeting and what steps we can do to try to concrete things that we can do to try to increase voter participation. And we'll be coming to you on that. So that's something down the road. It was an interesting summer project. We only had one person hang up on the caller. Unfortunately, that resident is actually a town employee as well. But that's a story for another day. She doesn't work for me. That's a story for another day. But Josie Berry, who was here for us this summer, did a terrific job, and very difficult thing for a college student to have to cold call that many people. So I think it's going to be kind of an eye opener for the data to get out to you to see and ask people what their thoughts about different ways the meetings could proceed. And it'll be interesting what steps your board, the moderator, I, and others can do to try to improve voter participation. So that'll be coming down the road. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comment? With that, I move that we adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor? Okay.